Welcome to Configure It Done, the podcast where SAP leaders share real insights, proven strategies, and stories from frontlines of major SAP transformations. Get inspired, get informed, let's get it done.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Configure It Done podcast. Sarah, my colleague, is back on. Hello. And,
It's been a while.
I'll get you to introduce our guest. We've got a fantastic guest today. But we're just talking before the podcast then about how this has been helping people and the feedback that we've got, whether they've been working at a consultancy and they've been recognised on site, or a candidate going for an interview and listening to the insights from senior people like yourself and it helping them in an interview. So this podcast is really, it's helping the community, and hopefully the insights we've got today from another business person is going to help the community as well. But I'll hand you over to Sarah, and you can introduce our guest.
Yeah, let's
today.
get it on. So, Rachel Brown, thank you so much for coming along. So for a little bit of context, Rachel is from Suntory Oceania. Now, can't be saying Frugal Suntory. No.
Suntory Oceania.
I get a big slap on the wrist anytime I do that. But Rachel has just come off the back of, I gotta say, probably one of the most successful go-lives I've seen in my 7 now, almost 8 years of recruitment. So,
wow, thank you for saying that.
No, genuinely, because I think, like, not just yourself, but I speak to a lot of people there now, and I think a good measure of success is not just what the IT team says about the go live, but most importantly, what the business says. Like, that's really the litmus test, because I've spoken to FMCG businesses before where IT's like, brilliant, on time, under budget, exactly what they asked for. And I have a meeting with a business stakeholder, and they're just like, oh my God, what is this? What have they given me? But yeah, Rachel, tell us a little bit about yourself and I guess what you've just come off the back of.
All right. Well, thank you. It's so great to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm a transformation director. I've been working in change programs transformation for over 20 years. Predominantly in FMCG over the last 10 years, and I'm currently at Suntory, creating Suntory Oceania. That's been the biggest investment in FMCG in the last 10 years in Australia.
Yeah, wow.
It's been a privilege, quite honestly, to lead the team of people, and it's a true cross-functional team. So yes, technology's been a big part of it, but it's been an enterprise-wide initiative, as you would expect. So yeah, just been a real privilege to lead that. And as you say, it couldn't have gone more successfully. So I'm so proud of the entire team. We still have New Zealand. I have to say that. So Australia has gone live successfully.
We're a paranoid market in SAP, aren't we?
We still have New Zealand to go. So that will go live on the 1st of January in 26. But we're all very, very pleased with everything that we've delivered so far collectively as a team. And a big part of that has obviously been our technology development. We've invested around $22 million over around 10 different systems. And I'm pleased to say everything was delivered well within time and to great quality. And it's just been a fundamental part of the success of the overall program.
Yeah, it's massive. And again, when we do these podcasts and we do these events, a lot of the time we've got kind of like the theory of what good looks like. Very rarely do we get to do a bit of a deep dive into what the actual practical applications of a good program look like, the impacts of a business and that kind of thing. So I think we're going to get stuck in. But in terms of success, like, again, you come from a business background as opposed to IT, and, you didn't start as an app developer. Let's put it that way.
No, I didn't. I was a client manager, so I started in account management.
So, like, tell us about this journey, and what have you learned along the way that you reckon were influential and massive in the success today?
Okay, big question.
We'll start big. We'll go smaller.
Okay, so I did. So I started my working life at General Electric, so GE, as a client manager.
Okay.
So that was all around managing a P&L. So I guess I learned how a business works early on and what it takes to make a P&L in terms of the drivers and what you can change, what's key in that space. And very quickly got into, well, how do you grow your P&L? And I actually got into some acquisitions. So we acquired a couple of store card portfolios. That's the area I was working in at the time. And
is this back in the UK?
This is back in the UK. So I've only recently, so I moved to Australia 7 years ago. So all of my early career was in the UK.
Sure.
And it was a company where they literally let you just go, right? So you just jumped in the deep end and you either sank or you swam. So I think I learned an awful lot in the early days. GE was also big on Lean Six Sigma. So that was kind of just part of their culture. So, you know, the part around change and change management and bringing people on the journey with things that you were doing was just kind of a key part of just how you worked. So I guess for me, it's always been that kind of change way of working was just part of a BAU job that I was doing at the time. I really enjoyed doing the acquisitions, and then I got involved in also passing one back to another competitor. Then when I left, I moved to Legal & General, which is an insurance company in the UK, where really I've focused a lot on process change, on creating new product development, governance and processes and ways of working. It was also at the time of the financial crisis. So there was a lot of cost reduction, lean work going on then. And then we heavily focused on the customer. So a lot of like customer centric work. So I guess across the breadth of those different types of change, I got exposed to lots of different ways of delivering that and the challenges that come with that. And they're all very, you can have like a playbook or a way of doing things that is kind of your, and you have a toolkit of different things you can pull in, but each change is always very, very different.
Yeah.
And it's different people, right? So there's different challenges with different histories and things. So for me, it's just about understanding the environment that you're in and what's the outcome you're trying to drive, and then pulling on all of the toolkit and the experience and understanding the people to kind of really work out, well, what's the best way to do this to get the right successful outcome. So yeah, so it's a blend of a lot of different things. So I think I've just been exposed to a lot of different functions, businesses, ways of working, and truly enterprise wide.
Yeah, no tunnel vision.
No,
yeah,
exactly right. And in doing that means that I've always had cross-functional teams. So I've never been functional kind of specific. There's a few programs I've ran, maybe say in HR services, that was very specific to HR. But again, that had, you know, different third parties. It had a big technology element to it. It had huge amount of change and people side of things. So, you know, it kind of brought in a lot of different facets. So, yeah, for me, it's always been cross-functional, which I think just gives you a different lens on change and how that works.
We speak to a lot of obviously IT people, and they lead programs. Obviously, from your background, you've come from obviously the business. One thing I'm like really interested in learning is there's a lot of technical jargon on these big programs. Someone being from the business, this business led, how do you stop people from pulling the wool over your eyes? And do you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of technical jargon, but yeah, how do you stop that? Yeah,
I think so. So I think writing very clear business or understanding clear business requirements is very, very important. So from a business lens, the business owns that. So the business needs to take accountability for understanding what it is that they require.
Yeah. And what they're asking for.
What they're asking for. Okay. Because the technology is critical, but it's an enabler to actually the business outcome. So I think the business needs to take accountability for very clearly articulating. And when they can't, for the technology team to work with them and partner them. And I think that's the skill for the technology teams, is to have people who can talk in layman's terms.
Yeah.
So that you can have that productive conversation and there isn't gaps or misunderstandings. Document it very clearly, again, in very simple language. Then the technology teams can go off and create solutions for those requirements, which will obviously get quite technical in the background as they're working that through, but they need to be presented back again in a way that the business understands.
Gotcha. Okay.
And if they don't understand, they need to say they don't understand.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's difficult because sometimes people don't feel that they can do that. They don't know that. So part of my job is to kind of support them on that journey to kind of go, no, you really need to, if you don't know what's being communicated to you, really do need to ask the questions so you do understand.
So creating a safe environment.
Correct. Because fundamentally you have to agree that this is the solution that's right for your business and you're accountable for that, not the technology team. So I think it can be challenging for both areas, for technology to be able to speak in a way that the business can understand, but for the business to challenge and feel that they've got the skill set to do that from the technology team.
And you focus on the business there. You mentioned the business owning the product, owning the solution. How do you, because obviously with a transformation, there's so much change. How do you bring those people on the journey that are kind of reluctant to that change, reluctant to own it, Have you got any tips and insights on that?
So I think there's lots of different change resistance that you get across any kind of program or change that you're trying to deliver. And I think from a technology perspective, quite often people want to hang on to what they know well. You know, they're quite happy, you know, going away. I know this screen and I had to get into that.
I know my Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah, I know where to go and how to do that. You know, I don't really want to change any of that. I think it's about what's in it for me and what's in it for the team needs to be understood for them to embrace wanting to engage with the technology teams to make that change happen, because there's always progression and we do continually need to, like, you know, keep up with what's happening and new advancements and new platforms and solutions that are out there. But I think we always need to be clear why we're doing it and what's in it for that person who's going to be the end user.
I love that term. What's in it for me?
Because I think, again, not to toot Suntory, but you did do that really well, because we're obviously on this precipice now of ECC to S4HANA. And I think the way a lot of it's perceived from the market is tough luck, end of life, upgrade.
Yeah.
Upgrade whether you want to or not. Actually not too clear on what the upgrade means for you. How is it going to change your life? What's like, you know, is it going to make it easier for you? Or is this just something that I have to do because my license is coming to an end?
Yeah.
I think that like that has been such a key communication that sometimes like can get so easily missed as to why this project needs to move forward. I think that's why a lot of business cases kind of just fizzle
and fail out. I think, look, you're right. And the genuine truth might be actually the license is running out and we do need to upgrade our system, right? That's true, but there's also other things that you can then bolster onto that, because there will be other benefits associated
like
to that.
We're having this
That's the whole reason that we're decommissioning the old tool in the first place, is because there's something that's going to add more value. So I think it's about being clear on what that is and not just sticking to the simple thing, which is, well, you know, license is running out, you know, it's not going to be supported anymore, so we need to have this new thing. So not just using the technology language, right, which maybe is what's being talked about within the team, but for the business, be very clear what other things it brings for them. And that will help them embrace that and not just see it as this is just something else I've got to, you know, land on my desk and, you know, I've got to do this and you know, I don't really want to have to learn how to process this thing in a different way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay. Rachel, I'm going to pivot the conversation to quite a tough area we've already mentioned around business resistance and how you manage that, but other challenges that you faced in the program. Every time we do these podcasts, we get feedback, and customers and people in the market, they want to hear about real life challenges that happened on a program. If you can share some of those challenges first of all, and then how you overcome them, that'd be amazing. I
think when you work on this transition of Suntory Global Spirits and Suntory Beverages and Food into the one Suntory Oceania, it's been a 3.5 year journey, if not 4 years from when the business case was written. So it's been very long. That in itself is a challenge, because you've got to keep people motivated.
Yeah.
Things change. So, you know, you've designed everything, you're halfway through implementation, and, you know, the leaderships are changing because for lots of different reasons. And so people want to redesign. Well, you know, redesigning kind of like 2 years into a 4-year program is not really like ideal. And that's definitely a big challenge that we faced. And it's about educating and making clear to people kind of where we're at right now, and that there are certain things that can be changed, because that's, you know, we can still do that and deliver the outcome, but these things can't be. Yeah. And actually that'll have to be a continuous improvement program after we go live. Doesn't impact our day one proposition, but, you know, we'll look at that. If it's something that's a must have, then you bring it in. We do, you know, the change request process that everyone will know and love, and we bring it in. So that was one challenge. I mean, we faced so many challenges because this program of work scaled from building a whole new greenfield site. So that was literally a field.
Yeah.
In Swanbank.
Is it true that it's got Field of Dreams written at the front?
No. That was Field of Dreams was the code name for the entire program, because it was under NDA for a long time.
Okay.
So that was the code name, and which
I feel kind of cool.
I've tried to get rid of it.
Two on the nose.
But it has been a Field of Dreams. I don't know. It's all worked successfully, but so yeah, building a manufacturing facility from scratch. I probably could fill a whole week of, you know, challenges that you face with that. We were just talking about, you know, the biomass boiler getting lost in the Suez Canal, right? You know, when I get lost, getting stuck, and then 8 weeks late, that causes so many problems because it was on the critical path.
Yeah.
for everybody, right?
Yeah.
For the engineers, for even from a technology perspective, because we couldn't do certain things until that was in place, which then knocked on kind of from a SAP development perspective, what we could do, because when we could trial things and when we could test things. So that was a constant review, I think, of kind of every week, what's happening with the critical path, how do we reshape, rejig, and it was constantly moving things around to kind of keep things on track. So that was quite intense. We had to recruit 400 people.
Wow.
Because we had to put around 200 people into our new facility, and
Massive.
we stood up a whole new alcohol business unit. So that required a whole new route to market team. We recruited all of those people with our own internal recruitment teams. We brought in extra people to do that.
Don't say that on a podcast.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Use agency.
What have I said?
No, you used agency.
recruited,
Yeah, you used
sorry.
agency.
No, I'm joking.
We're good.
So
I don't think we could have helped with the factory workers anyway. We're good, but we're not that good.
Kudos to the talent team.
They did a great job. So I mean, that was a challenge, trying to find that number of people in a fairly short space of time.
Yeah.
From a technology perspective, we did have a tight window for specifically our kind of front end systems that our sales team would use. But we managed to get that all delivered on time. That enabled us to also do customer rehearsal testing, which was critical because we actually picked up a few issues during that as well. So that when we actually went live, everything was fully functioning, working. So from a technology perspective, actually, that's one learning I'd absolutely share, is make sure that your IT delivery roadmap gives you the time. Once you've got the people in place and once you've got your process in place, give yourself a couple of months if you can. Maybe I had a bit of a gift of time there. I don't know that the window is so large. Do your customer rehearsal testing. So that's with the live system and with real customers, so that when you actually do go live, you've already kind of probably picked up some of the things you would have found on day one.
And I think you spoke about that when we first kind of like touched base on this podcast. It was a concept that Jay and I, and we've done a lot of these podcasts. We've heard a lot of go live war stories and that kind of thing. Dress rehearsal testing and customer rehearsal testing was something that we actually hadn't heard of very commonly, if at all. Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it's basically, if a customer was to make a sale through Suntory, you would actually have them take that through from end to end to uncover any bugs. Yeah. Like, how was that? How many clients did you use? What was that period of testing like?
So I think we tested with about 5 customers. Yeah. But they were the big customers and the ones that were putting the highest volume through. Yeah. And it starts with placing an order. So it's basically our order to cash process. Yeah. If you work in FMCG. So we ran that process from start to finish. We didn't actually put the product on a truck and deliver it, but we did create the invoice, and so we took it that far. So you pick up things like master data issues. You can imagine when you've got multiple SKUs that you've had to input into a system and you've got multiple new customer data. It's all, yes, we have tools, but data is only as good as the data that gets put in the first place. We all know that. And data is often one of the things that trips people up on a big transformational program. So we did have a few of those. So we picked that up along the way. There was some EDI things that we picked up as well that we needed to fix. They were the kind of the big areas. The actual process worked as we expected, which was great. And the people who had to intervene in all of that process along the way, that all worked. I think it was a really good example of a truly cross-functional team. I think we had about 24 people on this kind of order to cash process all the way through on like a Teams chat, kind of connecting. Yeah. And that's not something that they would necessarily do in BAU every day. And that's something that will continue now. I think the groups worked out, they really valued and they understood the importance of their part in the process and then understood the whole thing end to end because they were exposed to it, whereas maybe in BAU they wouldn't be. And so that one that continues. So that's another thing that's benefited from this whole testing. But I think the key thing is we all know about UAT. Everyone does that. But this is the next step after that because it tests the people and the process as well as the technology all together.
Yeah. How good is that?
That's really good. Yeah.
Genuinely.
Really good.
I just think that like so often, again, you'll hear about an IT team saying this project's gone brilliantly well, but then in the background, an end user's maybe gone back to the Excel spreadsheet that they were using from day dot anyway. So like, yeah.
so that's change adoption. So yeah. So in a different context, say you're doing just a normal, I don't know, technology change for a platform that people use to create reports or something. I'm just making it up. If you don't do the change adoption correctly, yes, then you might have done a fantastic IT implementation, but if no one's using it, then it's not really worked. And in order to get people to use it, you've got to go back to what we were talking about before, is, well, why do I need to use this new system? What's in it for me, right? How's it going to help my life? Is it going to make it easier? Is it going to give me a better outcome? Or a bare minimum, if it's not going to add anything new, make it easy for me to use, please, and come in and engage with me to tell me how to use it. And then if you've got the resources, you should have change resources who then track that through for at least 3 months. Quite a lot of my change programs, we have change adoption metrics. So they set from the beginning. So you know what good looks like at the end.
Yeah.
And then if you find that people aren't adopting, then you have to put, other measures in place to kind of get that moving, which you always have to do if you're decommissioning something anyway.
Yeah.
That's often the good carrot. But if that's not the case, then you have to have other things in place. And that's part of the change role.
Sure. And Rachel, very rarely do we have the privilege to have a program transformation director that's been through a whole S4 program end to end. And we do get asked a lot of questions around ROI and the benefit. And at the minute, there's a lot of businesses that are doing business cases and they're falling down, and it all comes back to cost and ROI. Now, you've been through that 3.5 year program. It's a successful program. What would be your message to customers that are just about to embark on the journey, and more specifically around ROI, cost benefits to the business, real tangible stuff like that? Yeah.
It's like probably not as relevant to the work I've just done, but I've seen it many times before when you look to roll out these big ERPs or S4HANA, and the business cases are written, but they're not, especially if you're rolling out globally. The connects aren't always necessarily made to the local market. So there are assumptions made about the benefits that will drive in your local market, right? And they haven't necessarily always got the buy-in from the local market to execute those benefits.
That's so interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So the business case gets written, signed off. Everyone thinks they're going to save, I don't know, X million. The technology is fine. That all works. Often there's challenges with processes as well. So that's another thing that you've got to, anyway, so there's process and technology that need to match together. That's another challenge. But when it comes to then landing in the organization, if, say, the market leader hasn't bought in to the benefit realization of whatever, so let's say it's X number of people, then that won't happen.
Yeah.
Because the control of, who are the accountable people for making the decisions as well that execute against what was said in the business case. So I've seen that happen. And then it's interesting then, because it always varies in different companies about the accountability for that as well. So if the accountability sits somewhere centrally, but the executor, like I've said, is a local market, then there's no direct correlation.
Yeah,
if you have that direct correlation, it's easier, because then that accountability filters down and it's kind of a little bit more enforced. So it becomes like someone's objective, right? So therefore they will follow through on that. So I think, I actually think it's the original business case and the intent that was set up, and ensuring that if you are banking benefits in there, that the people who actually have to make them happen are bought into that and understand it. And if they don't, then there needs to be a real honest conversation. So that, the business case doesn't then blow out at the end.
Sure. So more of a bottom-up approach as opposed to...
on that. And I definitely think that I often hear about technology implementations, the cost doubling from what's in the business case, right? So again, I think, these are always difficult things to get off the ground. So people will always want to try and take a pragmatic view, let's just say, of the cost. And I think that's fair. But equally, you don't want to be so unrealistic. But then I think that also comes down to good project and excellence in project management, and being ruthless on risks and issues, and making sure that you're looking ahead, solving issues before they come, so your costs don't blow out, right?
Yeah.
Because that's often where it happens, is things go wrong, and therefore you need to have, the team for another 5 months or something, and that's where the extra cost comes in. And again, maybe you've not engaged very well with your local market, which means that there are nuances you didn't know about, and then you spend time working through all of that. So I think I guess what I'm saying is the overall thing is if you get it right at the beginning, your business case, your requirements, your engagement with the right people, the pragmatic but realistic approach, the right accountability, then you should set yourself up for success. But I think, the beginning is really critical to get all of that work through correctly so that you can execute what you said you're going to do.
Slow is smooth, smooth is fast, basically, at that very beginning. Isn't it?
I mean, look, every organization's got different challenges in this space and, have different things. So, I don't know if that answers your question exactly, but that's kind of my experience. But I think you also need to be very clear what it is that success does look like.
Yeah.
A lot of time that's also not, if it's not always just cost. There are other elements of reasons why you might implement something. So I think they need to be clearly understood and they need to be tracked too and communicated to the business, because again, you don't want it to be seen as oh gosh, I've got to spend all this time on this thing and I don't know what it's for. And, really engage with the people who are actually going to have to use the end outcome or be part of the project team that have to implement it, right?
Yeah,
what was success what did success look like on this program?
On this program? That we went live on day one. And it worked.
As planned.
Yeah, as planned. This one's slightly different in that we had a fixed deadline because we had to start producing alcohol. We had to start selling on the 1st of July this year. There was no room for maneuver on that. That was the hard deadline. And that had been set, obviously, from the very beginning. So we always knew that. So what success looked like was basically being able to give a seamless transition to our customers in Australia. I'm pleased to say we've had some great feedback from customers and it feels like that's happened. So that really is the true measure of success, a seamless transition to our customers without impacting our current BAU. And we've managed to achieve that.
Do you feel like that hard deadline helps? That 1st July?
Yes, I think having hard deadlines is always a good thing to have because it also it focuses everyone's mind. Yeah. And it does mean when problems come along that people are probably more focused to solve those and be a bit more creative. It also removes one of the, time cost quality elements out of it, right? That's non-negotiable. Yeah, so if you've got to compromise in other areas, then there's fewer areas to compromise.
Kind of put it into straight priority. Yeah. Like there is no,
it does help with prioritization to your point, because if the question I would ask is, do we need it for day one? No, right. We're not doing it. Yep. We can do that afterwards. So every time there'd be, a change request that would come through for something new, or if someone suddenly remembered we need to do something, that would be the question to ask. Do we need it for day one? Does it stop us providing that seamless transition to our customers? Yes or no? Well, if the answer is it doesn't help, then we're going to do it later. We'll put that on the list for day two. So I think it does help. It gives you something to work backwards from as well. It's very fixed. Yeah. And everyone knows that. So there's no kind of negotiation. Because I think we can't go a bit later.
There's always that little back door, right? Of if this fell down though, 6 months, 3 months, whatever it is. But that 1st of July was communicated from the beginning. The contractors that I worked with knew 1st of July, like this does not move. And I think that constant communication of this is immovable, everything else moves behind it, but nothing can move forward. I reckon that would, I think that was interesting.
I think it is. It's a good thing to have, I think, especially when something's going for that long, for 3 years. And obviously within that, there are certain things, you can imagine how many plans we had and how many things interacted with each other and how many codependencies. And within that, things can move and change and you can reprioritize within that. But that everything that was required to be ready for us to provide that seamless transition, absolutely, it was non-negotiable. And actually it was already ahead of that customer rehearsal testing. So it was already 2 months before go live. Yeah. So we gave ourselves enough buffer as well.
Massive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
So Rachel, two more questions before we wrap up. Sarah and I, we like to ask every guest who they'd like to hear on the podcast. I won't get you to answer that just yet. We'll ask that at the end. But before we get to that, I want to get you to rewind 3.5 years. And you're at the start of that program. Now you've been through that now. What would be your top 2 or 3 tips or insights to Rachel 3.5 years ago after going through that experience?
What would I tell myself?
What would you tell yourself? Yeah.
what would I say to myself? I would say absolutely build the best team that you can get. Invest in the right people with the right skill set. You need data people, you need process people, you obviously need your PMO team, you need all of the great SMEs. You get your best people on the job who are also great at being a team player, because the success of all of this is actually being teamwork.
Love it.
So I definitely say, and we did it, but so I definitely say that to myself again, like, build a great team and encourage that team to be literally fully functioning team, have each other's backs, work together. I think excellence in project management and change management, like the basics 101, just do it excellently. Risks and issues management was critical for us. So I'd say absolutely continue to invest the time and the governance that is the backbone and the structure to keep something that is a bit of a, moving feast in place. But the third thing is that being said, there's still a lot of ambiguity in something like this, because if it's gone for so long, you won't know everything that's happening, or there were certain things we didn't know. So I had to find a way through that ambiguity and keep the team kind of focused on the end goal. So I think I'd say to myself, just be okay with that and kind of coach others on that too. And kind of just make people feel a bit more comfortable with that uncomfortableness, and kind of say, look, not just trust the process, because we had key milestones, right?
Yeah.
And having those, but just kind of like let the team, they know what they're doing. So let them get on to do that job and trust that we will get there and be comfortable with the ambiguity, but we'll work with you on that and partner with you to get through all of that.
Brilliant. I'm going to squeeze one more question in. What's next? What's next for you?
Well, I'm not yet sure.
In an ideal world.
Look, in an ideal world, I love what I do. So it's kind of, I would say, more of the same, but I'm open to kind of what environment that I do that in. So it could be big integration work, acquisitions, something bigger in that space. Or like a general management kind of opportunity, which an organization that's growing and transforming and changing, would be great. But anything really that's kind of a bit ambiguous, a bit complex, a bit difficult,
4-year programs, that kind of thing.
Well, maybe not 4 years, maybe 2, maybe 2. But anything that's really going to add value to an organization, something that really, when you finish it, you can be proud of it and kind of know that you've added something.
Excellent. Okay. Well, congratulations on that program.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think,
Thank you so much.
Good luck with New Zealand.
Definitely good luck with New Zealand. Yeah. And I think any customer or any hiring manager watching this can clearly see that you'll add significant value. I certainly learned a lot today, so thank you for that. And now I'm going to come back to that question now around who would you like to hear on the podcast.
Okay. So just going back to my earlier piece, maybe around integrations, and it'd be interesting from an M&A perspective to get some thoughts on a technology, from a technology, but how is that considered as part of an M&A deal? And I know that they're all very slightly different, but anyway, it'd be just interesting maybe to know something from an M&A perspective.
Okay, brilliant.
Thank you so
Excellent.
much.
Thank you for having me. It's been
No worries.
fun.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed that. And we'll speak soon.
Love
Thank
it.
you very much. Thank you.